Hello, Isaac.
Oh, hello. The recording is started.
Look at
Uh,
us.
Happy Shabbos.
Happy
The
Shabbos.
weekend is almost, the Shabbos is almost here. The Sabbath is almost here.
You're becoming prophetic yourself. Happy Shabbos, a good 3, 4 hours before the Holy Sabbath comes upon us.
Well, I'm becoming probably more prophetic, and you're becoming more Christian. So I guess it's a win-win for all. It's a win-win for all.
Seems unlikely, but I accept.
Anyway, how are you doing? How's your day? How's your day going so far?
Baruch Hashem, my day has been lovely.
That's
Everything
good.
is going great so far. Wonderful. Okay, so
So,
where are we up
Rabbi,
to?
Rabbi, see, here's my question to you. So, based on what he said yesterday, if Herod was so paranoid that he killed, you had this list of people whom he killed, that he kept killing, right? Then
Yes,
these mag,
he didn't keep killing them. He killed them once, then
yeah,
killed
he
them.
killed them. Fine, yeah. I mean, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. So the point is, this Magi would have known about that. That they would have known that he's paranoid. And I mean, here's what I'm trying to. Here's what I'm suggesting. Did the author mean for us to say that this is going to take people by surprise, knowing who Herod was, knowing how paranoid and how evil he was, that this Magi would go to him, I'm the king of the Jews, and then I, I've also come to understand that.
I understand your
Can I
question. We
can I
don't
just make
know.
one point? Can I just make one
Yeah,
point? The king of the Jews is a very politically charged statement. I mean, we look at
I'm
this as the
saying.
king of the Jews, right? Back in the day, this was a politically charged statement. As in, I mean, there was tension on this thing. It's like saying, again, you take a term from today's thing, and people get all worked up about this. To me, it just seems so. It just seems so. It just doesn't fit with your overall character of who these magi were, that they would be so completely oblivious to this politically I mean this to I mean this powerful thing, and going to Herod saying, where's king of the Jews? I mean, I again, if I
Well,
would if I would
I'm not answering your question, but I'll add to your question and say, even when we look back at verse, specifically verse 2:1 and 2:2, it's very clear that now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem, blah, 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 wise men from the east came to Jerusalem. One of the questions when we dealt with 2:1, we dealt with the question of why would they come to Jerusalem if they've come to worship Jesus in Bethlehem? It seems that part of their mission, part of their interpretation of the astrological star was that they had an obligation to announce. These guys are the people heralding the Messiah. So they were
uh,
not going to Bethlehem to give presents and to welcome Messiah. They're going to Jerusalem, where King Herod was, and say, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews?"
and
Namely,
see, that's to me that I mean, I see what he's saying, but I just find this hard to believe. I mean, if they were learned people, and this is a politically charged thing to say, it's like saying, take something just so politically charged today. So just one thing. So is it fair to say was the author's main purpose in this to say that um, nobody, leadership in this, again, any form of leadership, either political or religious, nobody can thwart the works of God? That God is on the move, God is doing something, God's son is born. You can have Herod,
again, I
you
think
can
you're
have
reading a lot into, like, again, like, you're not wrong. I don't think that anyone thought he's going to be killed by doing this. I don't think the Magi were living in fear. There's nothing about that. Whenever the second that they were in danger, we see, or we will see that God intervened. But listen, I look at them as I don't know if you've ever heard the concept of Messiah, the son of Joseph. I'm sure you can Wikipedia it somewhere, but Messiah, the son of Joseph, is this concept
Mhm.
that there is a figure or some things that happen before the Messiah comes. Sometimes there's a person who has to die. In Christian theology, we do see John the Baptist, and possibly John the Baptist being the person who has to die to herald the king, the Messiah. But in this situation, I see no problem saying that the idea, the eschatological idea of something happening before the Messiah comes to herald him, that these are the heralds. These are people who are announcing it. And
Mhm.
that's why they go to Jerusalem. That's where they go and they announce this. It doesn't say they go to the king. It just they came to Jerusalem and said, where's the guy? We know what's happening.
I mean, again, That's it's all fine, well and said, but once we study Herod, and again, that this statement, King of the Jews, is not neutral. This is people have strong feelings. It's politically charged, and
Usually
again,
the
people.
king does have strong feelings about when people say the king is here.
No, it's not just Herod, right? Back in the day, again, Messiah, King of the Jews. I mean, the King of the Jews was meant to be the Messiah, and to imagine that these people, it's like going to President Trump. I mean, anyway, this can get political, but all that aside, it does make a person think, and one again, and to grapple with this, to know that. Um, yeah, so
Okay.
that these folks went to Jerusalem, and then from there they went to Bethlehem,
Okay. So
and
well, let's read about that. So
okay,
we're on 2:9.
okay, 2:9. Okay, the Gospel according to Saint Matthew, chapter 2, verse 9 onwards. After listening to the king, they went on their way, and behold, the star that they had seen when it rose before them, until it came to rest over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. Then, opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh.
Okay, I think that's probably enough for now. Okay, so a lot of things are happening. So they left Herod. Herod did send them off after speaking to them privately. He says, "Go and search out exactly, get the kid, find out where he is, bring me word. Don't even bring the kid back to me. Tell me he exists, and I will join you in worshiping him." And now we have they heard the king. It sounds like they plan on listening to the king on 2:12. We'll see God intervenes, but as of right now, it could be they didn't know Herod was this Murray's killer, or it could be that they thought Herod was going to be so excited to hear the Messiah, the King's born. Unclear. And then all of a sudden, he sends them off. They go on their way, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this star appears again. Right? This star is everywhere. They saw it in the east, and now they see it again. And I think whatever thing we thought about the star in the first situation, namely that announcing the King of the Jews, whatever, this is a different type of star, right? It is not the same purpose as the last star, right? That makes sense?
I think yeah. I think one can make that. I mean, we can infer that from these verses that it's a different kind of star. It's probably not the same star, and the star shows up again.
Well, it not being a different star, it could be the text disagrees with that. When you read 2:9, right? If you read 2:9, it says the star which they saw in the east, the star which the one they had seen in the east. It sounds like it is the same star, right?
So it sounds like the star showed up. It brought them to Jerusalem, to the king's palace, and then the star disappeared, and then the star shows up again, and it takes them from there to Bethlehem. But then, to your point, Bethlehem and Jerusalem, they weren't that far apart. And so, when you say that the star showed up and took them, it's
Well, they didn't know the path, right? I mean, the import of this is if King Herod knew the way to go, he wouldn't need them. They didn't even know the house or the way to go. So if the star originally, again, I want to note that this seems like a multi-purpose star. The star originally was to tell them that the king is born. And then secondarily, the star now is able to be a GPS. GPS star sends them to the house. And it's really interesting that, at least from my perspective, this seem to be very different types of stars, even though it is very clear the same star. The first star is one that announces a prophecy fulfillment.
hmm
And the second one is directions to the prophecy
hmm
fulfillment. So
that's
so
mhm.
if you view them either magically or divinely, they're very different purposes. And I think it's really interesting to think about how people in the first century of today are supposed to relate to this type of star. When you see, let's turn the star, let's say in Isaac's life, Isaac feels he sees a sign from God. I feel there's two very strong different kinds of signs for God, right? There's, oh my God, I'm a sinner. I have to change my life. I have to go do this. And then there's another one that's kind of tying you up and leading you on the way, saying, I feel the divine hand.
Uh-huh.
And it feels like there's two different kinds of divine or astrological hands here. And I think it's really interesting.
So, okay, so the first star was both a prophecy fulfillment and a GPS because
Well,
it
I don't
led
want to
them,
say
right?
prophecy fulfillment because I don't know how their astrology works. It
I
was a
see.
star that told them in their religion or their interpretations that they have to go to Jerusalem and announce the King of the Jews, whatever that means. That's very clearly at least what they did. How did they know Jerusalem? If you want to argue, maybe the star really just also was acting as a GPS then, and it drew them to Jerusalem. Maybe it was like, you will know that the king of some people will be born. And then the star drew them or drove them to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
It's unclear, but it's really interesting. If we wanted to try to create a philosophy or a metaphysics around the star, which is very, very clear, it does. It's really interesting. We would have like this dual purpose star. And if anything, the star looks like it's acting as biblical prophecy fulfillment text. The star is taking the place of the Bible almost in a certain way.
Yeah, I think once we make that extrapolation, or once we start replacing the star again, the Bible prophecy with the star, then we could also we could again from a Christian perspective, we can start replacing the star with people. You know, I've heard people speak about the star and missions, and I mean
Oh
back
yeah,
in the
so that's what
day,
I'm saying. The
you know,
star
back
is,
in the day, you know, the star meant to it drew this Magi to Jesus, and now as Christians we are called to be
I'll
the
be honest, I
star.
can't think, and when I think of all the 24 books of the Bible, I can't think of any parallel to this kind. If we're trying to think of theological imports, I really can't think of any import. And even from a narrative perspective, if I said King Herod sends them out, the Magi walk out of the castle, and the first one goes, I don't know where to go. And the other one looks at him and goes, I don't know where to go. And then from the east, this awesome star comes, and whatever star means, it shows up in front of them. So it's a good question if we should maybe throw away even the word star and start talking about Holy Spirit.
Well,
Maybe
I
the
think
star,
so. I
yeah.
still think so. You know, I still think. I mean, I still think again that uh, we have to look at the broad themes in this passage. Again, as you've noted, this passage is full with mystery. The star shows up, star goes away, star comes up, and now we're trying to fill the gaps. Maybe the star of the Spirit of God. I mean, fine, but then I think if you were to look at the bigger themes in this, what are the major themes that the author wants us to know? I don't think. I mean, do you think that the author meant this to be a historical record to give us a point, to give us a line? Well, no, right? We don't know,
No,
right?
I'm
So
not, I don't go into that question. That for me,
yeah.
that's not an
So
important question.
here's the thing, right? They have to move by night. I mean, the star is not visible. It's not visible during the day. It's only visible in the. I mean, when it's dark, and so
Well,
and so.
how do you know that from this text?
I mean, isn't that just basic reason, basic common sense? Like, okay? Has anyone ever viewed a star during daytime? I haven't seen one. I mean, I don't even make an attempt to
I
view a
mean,
star.
it seems to be very, very difficult. I can't imagine. I've never seen any daytime anything except for the moon, but I
Yeah,
imagine if maybe there's an eclipse. But yeah, so I would say that stars are generally seen at night, but stars
yeah.
also generally don't lead people. So I'm not really invested in the time of day personally.
Okay. So all I'm saying is saying that this is he meant to probably take this at again to the author mean for us to take this at a much higher level. So what I'm also surprised is Joseph is absent here. They speak about the
Well,
Magi. So
because Joseph's in Bethlehem, he can't be here.
yeah, so maybe yeah, in the next verse, right? They saw the star, they rejoiced with great joy. They come, they meet the child. The star shows up, it leads them. They come out here, but then where's Joseph? Because Matthew so long has been so fixed upon Joseph. The first chapter, the second chapter, again, at least these verses, the next 10 and 11, Joseph is completely absent.
So there's so many concepts. Let's like maybe take apart some of these concepts. There's so much to talk about here. So number one, um, they're going to Bethlehem.
Yeah.
We're not going to read the other gospels, but they want him to be from Nazareth. So we're going to have to deal with that. Number two, the only time we really see star prophecies are really when we talk like, a star shall come out of Jacob in the book of Numbers. And
Hmm.
you could say that while I wouldn't, I mean, the biblical parallelism there is that a scepter shall rise out of Israel, meaning leadership. You could argue that the star in there is being used metaphorically, and over here it's being turned literally to lead them to the Messiah. So we do see at least that mention of star in old prophets in Old Testament. But the fact that the star also only appears, the third or fourth question we're up to, the fact that the star only appears in Matthean texts. And again, we're not going to overly focus on how Matthew is the Jewish gospel, but you would like to at least think that the Jewish people, if it's in Matthew, there would have been a higher relevance, at least from a biblical perspective, which I think it just eludes us.
So let me put this question to you. So as a Jew, as a Jewish, Orthodox Jewish rabbi reading this text and knowing that again, again, is the country of Israel is defined by this five-pointed star, right? Isn't the five-pointed, a five, is it what, a five-pointed star, a six? It's not a six, it's not six, it has five corners, right? The Jewish
Yeah, I mean,
star.
a Jewish star usually has six corners.
Yeah. So it's not five then. So I misspoke. It's six corners. So I take it that a star is something important
No, I mean,
to the faith. Is that
for me, no, zero. There's a very famous article about the historical importance of the star, but no, the Jewish star probably at that point probably wouldn't have been that much. Generally, the menorah or the candelabra would have been much more important.
see?
I mean, like this question, we keep translating Magi as either Zoroastrians or wise men, and it could be that these people, we shouldn't translate that way. Maybe it could be we should translate Magi just as astrologers and people who have this deeper insight into stars, and they're able to see things that we can't see.
Could be.
The
That's what.
idea, we do have the idea of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, which
Mhm.
would be something that the wise people could see and the other people can't see. It could be that we're taking just a completely wrong attitude towards the star and the wrong attitude towards who Magi are. Maybe Magi are just the people who could see stars wherever they are, and no one else saw it because these people, based on their, I'll use your word, pagan and or demonic and or Gnostic and or Jewish religion, are the people who could see stars in the day, and they could follow these things, and they just have a different relationship to astrology, and maybe that's what the Greek word Magi is referring to.
So, so on that note, right? So, if this magi again, if one way to look at them is just folks who are able to see things and who are able to read the signs in the stars, does this speak about the value of education, the value of learning? Again, so astronomy is just a science. I mean, but that's
Side point: be educated.
fine. Be educated, fine, great. All that is saying, God works, and God works, and the works of God are visible in all of creation. And anyway, that's a completely different topic. But I do hear what he's saying. The star is so metaphysical. It comes, and maybe we should not look at them as
I mean, the Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, they do take the star as a vision or a sign created by Satan, and they see this as like a negative. And again, like I'm not Jehovah's Witness, I don't know their ideology, but I think there's what to be said by the star is. You could argue it's happening from divine perspective, but you could argue that something's happening behind the scenes
That's right.
with these Magi, and we really have to look at it from a different perspective.
This reminds me of a famous prayer by the by Thomas Merton. Have you heard of Thomas Merton?
No.
Thomas Merton was a monk. He lived in the he was assassinated, I think, in the 1970s. He was a Benedictine monk. He has a few books, and they've been he's mostly a contemplative monk. And one of the prayers he has is, Lord, open mine eyes to expressions of your will. To say that God is at work, and it takes form of divine intervention, so that our some form again, so that our eyes are open to God's work. And so that's one way to read this, where um, the star was a sign, but these folks were able to see this, and it's only them, or they had some skill which enabled them to see this thing. But it's
Yeah,
also,
I think we have to be open to that possibility
yeah.
because, like I said, you can think of this really funny narrative of them leaving the castle, And they're like, oh my God, let's follow that star. And Herod kind of walked them out and he goes, what star? And they go, oh, don't worry about it. And they get there. Okay, listen, it just, I don't think we're gonna get to the bottom of this, but we do have to recognize the unique nature of the star in biblical and New Testament texts. I think that's the main thing that we have to note. And it not only in biblical texts where we see like the star coming from Jacob, but generally there's not many mentions of comets or magical stars in religion. But on top of that, it's just a common thing in the New Testament as well, where this doesn't happen. In Luke, Jesus is from where? Nazareth. So even it's hard to get to the bottom of this. Okay, but the end of the verse has a really interesting note. So where the star, it takes the 5-6 mile trek, goes south from Jerusalem, goes on, I think it's bus route 21, takes the bus, gets off the Egged bus, shows up at Bethlehem at your favorite manger painting, and then what happens? It stops, and it just stops on top of the young child. And I think that this is our first chance to, you were asking about Mary and Joseph. This would have been the first chance that they would have seen the star. And if you look in 2:10, it's an ambiguous verse, right? 2:10, we can't tell who. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. I assume that means Mary and Joseph, right?
So also at this point, we don't know how old was the child Jesus.
Right. I think he's 42 at this point.
You're funny. Okay, come on.
Yeah. So again, but it's unclear how old he is. This might be months after.
Yeah, months after. That's right.
But yeah, like I wish I could figure out 2:10, because on 2:11, and they came to the house and they saw the young child of Mary. So it sounds like based on 2:11, I would say 2:10 when it says they rejoice with exceeding great joy. It makes it think that the GPS said you have arrived at your destination. You've gotten here, and it's the Magi rejoicing, right? It's very, very unclear about this. But let's just stop because I want to finish on 2:10 today. And if I would ask you, why are they rejoicing now? What's happening that's causing them to rejoice?
This has been the culmination of, again, how of a very long journey, of long mystery, and now they've come to a point where they've probably reached peace, or they've attained some form of peace. But their purpose was also to worship him, right? And so I think we stopped here, but the next verse.
So you're saying mission accomplished? They understand that their mission is about to be accomplished.
I can't say
accomplished,
but at least
about to be accomplished. Right?
Yeah, or at least this is a major milestone, right? If their mission was to worship him, this is a major milestone where they have come to a place where they feel like this is the end. We've found the child, the price for that's priceless. I mean,
well, it's amazing though. Like, usually there's a concept like, I'm happy, I'm very happy, I'm the most happiest. You can always have different value gradations by levels of joy, happiness, glee. And what we see here is, at least in this English version right here, they rejoice with exceeding great joy. And in another version, they have that. That says they rejoice with a surpassingly great joy. So it's really interesting how if I were to say to you, happiness is a consequence of this situation because, how would you finish that sentence? Is it because they know that the King of the Jews is alive? It's because they are getting to the place for their mission, or it's because they're about to worship? And it's really interesting. There's two very different kind of values of joy that could be this. If I say you're about to be able to worship and you're happy, that's one. But another one is saying you're actually getting to your goal. That's a very different kind of happiness. And
yeah, I think that's a great distinction, right? One is a goal attainment happiness, and then the other one is a faith-based and more intrinsic form of joy and happiness. It's really hard for me to speak for them. Again, maybe for them. So these folks have embarked on this journey. They've been on this journey for a while. Who funded this journey, right? I mean,
who funded this journey?
Yeah, who funded? No, I mean, again, there were people had to pay. Again, they built.
They did a GoFundMe page. They had donors.
So all that to say is, so these folks were personally invested. They probably they spend the resources or took, or again, they had somebody
I
to
would say that their resources are really going to get expended in the next verse when they come take out all their presents.
present. So all that to say, right? So they were personally vested in this, again, in finding this king, in finding this baby, the king of the Jews. And so part of the joy was because they had attained the goal, like this goal of finding this person was attained. And I also think it's not mentioned here. Maybe um, what did they attain by all this? It's probably the peace. They've probably been grappling with this thing about. I mean, a star shows up, and why would they want to travel all this while to go worship somebody who's not even part of their faith tradition? Who's not? Maybe he's part of, again. He maybe he's part of the pantheistic faith, but it's not. It's not central it's not. I mean, again, a pantheistic faith has so many deities. Right? It need not be just this one person. It's only within Judaism or Christianity.
Oh, you love calling them pagans.
Okay, but so to your point, right? Um, they probably have multiple deities. This is one a deity to them, and so what caused them joy? One, they were vested in this, but at a much deeper level, uh, maybe it's God working in them with a restless heart, and maybe now they had that peace, the peace of joy, or the happiness, a contentment, and that is a source for happiness and joy. What do you think?
100%. Okay, I want to finish with one last question, just
Okay.
because I see what I feel is a contradiction. So it says that the star went in front of them,
Hmm.
and then it says that the star stood in the end of 2:9 until it came and stood over where the young child was. So
Hmm.
before we read 2:10, where is that star right now? Tell me. Where's the child and where's the star?
So okay, so if you
I'm
no, no,
asking like the
okay, no,
audience.
no, no, yeah, no, I hear you, right? So if you were to take a very literal view of the scripture, then that's a very valid question. Literal view, I think, what I'm getting towards is, or I think, what I think the author is mentioning is that they had confidence that this is the child, because the child cannot
You're saying
prove.
it didn't really stand over
I
him.
mean, so if you were to take an exact literal view, the question becomes: did that star stand exactly where the child was? Like, did that star stand exactly? I mean, the child was in this room, and did that star stand right above them? That I mean, that's a valid question. If you were to take this word literally,
I don't know. The GPS arrives. It sounds like, again, like it could have said that until it came to the house. Very easily, the verse could have said, and it
yeah,
came to the house.
the house,
Okay, well, let's say we still into the contradiction, even though you're obviously portending the contradiction. Contradiction is it says the star. It stood over where the young child was. It didn't have to say that. It could have said at the house. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced. So next they see the star, I guess, is over the child. And the next verse, what happens? They came into the house and saw the child was with Mary. Unclear, were they looking inside of the window and the star was inside of the window? It's unclear where the star is in its last couple, like last 100 feet
yeah.
in Bethlehem. What's happening with it?
So again, I think we've got to be mindful, right? So when this happened, it's not like this author was there taking notes. Oh, you guys have moved. I see the star over
But he
here,
wrote
right?
this. He
So
wrote until
okay,
it stops
okay,
above the young
yeah.
kid.
So he wrote this. So was his main purpose by
I would say yes.
putting
I
it
would
this way
say
to.
it didn't have to say that. It could have said until it got to till GPS star arrives at the house.
Yeah. So was his main purpose, or was one of his main objectives to show that they had confidence, they had peace, that this is the child? Probably back in the day, there were many people born. Maybe there was a person born in the next house, further down the street. What is there to delineate this child from the other child? They could have walked into any house. Maybe they did. We don't know, right? And so is
Yeah,
it,
it's just unclear. Like the whole idea. Listen, I hear you saying. You're saying that like don't be so literal. But
that's right.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. But like in the end of the day, the way it's written lends itself to problems. It stood over the young child was, and then 2:10. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced. What does it mean when they saw the star? When they saw the star stop. When they saw the star land over the boy. When they saw like again, when they saw the star all the way back in the east, and then they saw the star outside of Herod's castle, and now they're seeing the star take the GPS star all the way to Bethlehem. So it's just like there's this ambiguity about the
So
star, and then
yeah.
the physical nature of the star is ambiguous, and even where it's coming is ambiguous.
Okay, fine. So is it possible that um, the star brought them to this place, it stopped there, and they waited to see would the star move again? And what if the star didn't move and the star just waited there? And
Yeah, I
so
mean,
and
it
so
seems that it seems GPS. They knew that they arrived. That's what it seems. That's why they're
right,
happy, right?
and so they probably waited for some time, and the star didn't move from that, and so this gave them exceeding joy to know that this journey that this journey they've been on is coming to fruition, and they were able to find the King of the Jews and the child who they've been wanting to worship. I don't read this word literally that the star moved. I think no, I look at this to say that yeah, it moved, it brought them over here, and it gave them again, it gave them peace, it gave them confirmation that this is a child, and because there's nothing the child can do to prove that he or she is king of the Jews, right? I mean, if they went to I mean, the child can prove
We're
this.
going to ask that question even when Jesus dies.
Die.
That'd be a
Okay.
question. So
Okay. So it
all the
can
more
prove,
so.
and so they need some form of confirmation to know that this is a child. And so the way in which the star came and moved, it stopped, and then it stood there. It waited, or it didn't move beyond that. So they probably wait. So that probably gives him. I mean, wouldn't you be joyful? Like, if you were the Magi and stars move, stars don't stay constant. It's been moving all along, brings him to this place, and at this so at the end of verse 9, we don't know if this is a child. I know it stopped there, but is that the child? What if the star moves tomorrow? What if they waited for a few days and noticed that
Oh,
the
two
star,
nine. It stopped over where the child was. They know it's
okay,
the child.
okay, stopped isn't how long? And so, I
They
would think,
know that's the child. That's
so,
why I
so
got there.
I know. No, my point is, right, the star was a means for them, is a means of confirming to them, or the movement of the star, the way it stopped there, was a way for them was some confirmation for them that this is a place they have to go. And so that's
Okay, Isaac, on that note, sounds like we've had a good day.
what